Visionaries.
Knights of the magical light. Visionaries, with magical powers they fight. Powers of light.
Quest for the Dragon's Eye.
Visionaries, Knights of the magical light.
Leoric and the newly formed Brotherhood of the Spectral Knights were helpless in Darkstorm's Dungeon of Silence, while the Darkling Lords terrorized the citizens of New Valaric. They seized all their valuable possessions and took them back to Darkstorm's castle. Recon looked hungrily at the pile of gold and jewels.
So, how are we going to divide the booty?
Darkstorm glared at him.
What insolence! I am your lord and ruler. You swore fealty to me. It is all mine.
In no time, the Darkling Lords were at each other's throats, quarreling and fighting over who should have the stolen plunder. Deep in the Dungeon of Silence, Arzon had a plan to escape. He assumed his eagle form and flew up to the ceiling. There he found the opening of the long chute down which the knights had been hurled to imprisonment in their underground cell. He swooped back again to pick up Leoric and carry him in his eagle's talons up the chute and into the open air. Arzon returned to his normal form, and the two knights raced into Darkstorm's castle to release the others. They were challenged by the guards, but Leoric adopted the form of the lion. The fearsome beast was too much for the soldiers, who turned and ran. But not before Leoric had grabbed their keys. More guards chased them as they ran down the steps to the door of the cell. Their pursuers caught up with them as the door was opened to reveal Galadria in the company of a polar bear, a wolf, a fox, and a cheetah. The guards threw down their weapons and ran off screaming in terror. The knights reassumed their human shapes and picked up the fallen weapons.
Let's get Ferrell his magical totem back,
cried Leoric.
Then round up Darkstorm and his cronies.
Ferrell's magical totem had been removed by Darkstorm as an example to the other spectral knights who wouldn't swear allegiance to him. While the others attacked the armory to recover their own special weapons, Leoric led Ektar and Ferrell to the dagger assault vehicle. Ferrell stepped into the magical dungeon. Ektar managed to operate the controls and reverse the effect on Ferrell's totem. It glowed anew. His powers were restored. The raid on the armory was a complete success, and fully armed once more, the spectral knights burst into Darkstorm's throne room. Surprise was complete, for the Darkling Lords were still fighting amongst themselves. They could do nothing but flee and made off in the Skyclaw and the dagger assault vehicle. The knights came upon two other transporters. If Mordred and Recon were able to work engines, maybe the staffless Ferrell and Ektar had been given similar powers. Ferrell jumped onto a machine that became known as the Capture Chariot. He tried various switches. He had the power. Arzon joined him, with Galadria as the gunner, and they roared after the escaping Darkling Lords. The other vehicle, which they named the Lancer Cycle, responded to the touch of Ektar, and he zoomed off with Witter Quick to join the fray. The battle was long as the pilots experimented with the controls and pushed the machines to the limits of their newfound powers. But at last, the Spectral Knights were victorious. The Darkling Lords were rounded up and locked in a caged wagon, which was exhibited to the citizens of New Valaric.
Darkstorm's reign of tyranny is over, and all property is returned to all men.
The people cheered Leoric, and no one noticed Merklin sneak up to the wagon prison and pass Darkstorm a key. He whispered softly, "This will spring you from your bonds." No one could hear his words as the crowd joined the Spectral Knights in a great cry.
May the light shine forever!
Although the Darkling Lords were locked away, things were not going well for the people of New Valaric. The crops were failing, and the farmers came to Leoric for help. "If we don't get relief soon, the farms and then New Valaric will wither away." The problem had obvious connections with the New Age, and Arzon suggested that they took the Darkling Lords' power staffs to Merklin and traded them for a magical cure. Leoric agreed and promised that they would not return until they had a remedy for the farmers' plight. Leaving Ektar behind to supervise the prisoners, the Spectral Knights set off for Iron Mountain.
Visionaries, Knights of the magical light. Visionaries, with magical powers they fight. Powers of light, between skill and speed. Powers of greatest of these. Visionaries,
Meanwhile, the Darkling Lords were doing all they could to escape. They had no success until Darkstorm remembered the key he had been given. He turned it in his hand, puzzled.
What do I do with this?
He had no need to do anything, for by magic, the Darkling Lords began to dematerialize and were transported to freedom. There was nothing the guards could do, and, accepting full responsibility, Ektar set out to warn the others of the escape. He caught up with them just as they walked into an ambush on the mountain. Darkstorm and his followers created a great avalanche of boulders which bore down upon them. In order to escape, they assumed their animal forms, leaving the power staffs unguarded. In the battle that followed, the Darkling Lords managed to recapture their own staffs and made their way to the top of Iron Mountain and Merklin's magical shrine. The Spectral Knights arrived soon after, and the fighting was about to begin again when Merklin waved his hands.
There will be no fighting in the shrine. I care nothing for your petty squabbles. I have my own concerns. If you wish for more magic, you will venture on a quest for the Dragon's Eye. Do you think I give you magic out of selflessness? Of course not. I do it because I want you to be instruments of my will. But to show you that I intend to be fair, I will allow you to charge your power staffs one last time for free. One by one, the lords and knights recharged their power staffs, and the Spectral Knights agreed reluctantly to go on the quest for the Dragon's Eye. Merklin gave them a map, and they departed. The magician scowled at the Darkling Lords. And why have you stayed behind?
Darkstorm raised his staff.
Because we refuse your demands! Darkling Lords, attack!
They called on the powers of their staffs, but Merklin raised his crystal ball above his head, and each staff remained inert. 5 hands sprang from the sacred flame and grabbed the mutinous lords. Merklin did not seem surprised by the Darkling Lord's behavior.
I understand that evil types are prone to treachery. Now, get me the Dragon's Eye.
The map led the Spectral Knights to a crumbling industrial complex of the bygone age. Attacking moon demons delayed them for a while, and although the magical creatures were put to flight without much difficulty, it gave the Darkling Lords time to catch up with them and be first to enter the building that formed the Dragon's Lair. When the Spectral Knights raced in behind them, they found the Darkling Lords frozen in their tracks, staring at the awesome sight of a techno-dragon. The monster was an aggregation of factory machinery. Engines, assembly lines, pulleys, cranes, and hooks formed into one gigantic predator whose stomach was an enormous glass-sided incinerator. Its head was an observation room in which sat a figure holding a glowing orb, the Dragon's Eye. Arzon consulted his power staff of knowledge and was informed that the figure was the wizard, Volkema. The crane arms of the mechanical creature grabbed the Visionaries and carried them towards its gaping mouth, where they would be crushed in the jaws of a mighty metal press. For once, the Visionaries, both Darkling Lords and Spectral Knights, pooled their resources to escape their mutual danger, and the Fear Spider from Kravex's staff was too powerful for Volkema. The monster failed, and the magician threw his crystal ball into the air above the Visionaries. While their attention was occupied in recovering it, Volkema made his escape. The competition for the orb was fierce. First one side would have it, and then the other, as the knights and lords changed to and back from their animal forms. At last, Witterquick held onto it and dashed off at lightning speed. The Spectral Knights brought the orb to Merklin, but realizing its importance to him, would not hand it over until he agreed to give them help to save their city.
But never tell the Darkling Lords of the power you have wielded over me.
Magic seeds provided by Merklin solved the problems of the farmers of New Valaric. Rows of fruit and vegetables sprang out of the ground only a few moments after being sown.
May the light shine forever!
Cried the knights.
Visionaries, knights of the magic